The sunlight filtered through the dense canopy of the ancient trees, casting shimmering green light on the forest floor. There, in a clearing forgotten by time, something stirred. Not the rustle of leaves or the whisper of wind, this was a deeper, older stirring. Roots groaned, bark cracked softly, and the earth itself exhaled. Cale brushed aside a hanging vine as he stepped cautiously through the underbrush, his boots crunching against the moss-covered ground. The exosuit he wore buzzed faintly, running diagnostic scans of the environment. According to the Galactic Cartography Corps, this sector hadn't been touched by civilization in over 2,000 years. According to the rumors on the subspace forums, it was cursed. But Cale had always been a curious bastard. He adjusted the lenses on his visor, scanning for anomalous heat signatures. Nothing. Except the tree. It stood at the center of the glade, monolithic, ancient beyond imagining, its gnarled roots like the limbs of a sleeping giant. But it wasn't the tree's size that made Cale freeze. It was the figure fused into it. A woman. Her body was smooth and sculpted like marble, but her skin was green, patterned like bark. Vines coiled around her arms and legs, binding her gently but completely to the trunk. Her eyes were closed. Her hair, black as space, spilled around her shoulders like a waterfall. Bioluminescent markings flickered across her abdomen in slow pulses, as if syncing with some ancient rhythm. And beside her, as if keeping vigil, was a small robot. It turned its head toward Cale, a single glowing blue eye blinking in recognition. Intruder identified, it said in a surprisingly calm tone. Welcome. Do not wake the sentinel unless prepared to bear the price. Cale tilted his head. Sentinel? She's alive. The bot bobbed. Dormant. For now. Cale stepped closer, drawn not by arrogance but awe. The air around her shimmered faintly. Energy readings spiked on his scanner, but didn't seem hostile. He reached out. The robot raised a finger. Caution. Direct contact may result in irreversible consequences. Cale looked at the figure again. Her expression was serene. Was it a stasis field? Biological symbiosis with the tree? Or something deeper? He touched her hand. The world fractured. A sound not heard, but felt rolled through the forest. Like the groan of a planet shifting. The tree trembled. The vines around her retracted slightly. Her chest rose with a sudden breath. Cale stumbled back. The robot whirred nervously. Her eyes opened. Pupils like twin galaxies fixed on him. You touched me, she said, voice like wind rustling through leaves. You woke me. Cale swallowed. I didn't mean to. She blinked slowly, as if translating memory from eons of dreaming. I was bound to guard the gates of Virellia. Only the one who wakes me may claim them. Cale laughed weakly. Great. Love being volunteered for ancient quests. She leaned forward, the bark around her limbs creaking and cracking as it released her. The robot stepped back quickly, its optic flickering. What year is it? She asked. Cale gave her the galactic standard date. She closed her eyes for a moment. Millennia, she whispered. The war is over, then. Or has it just begun anew? Cale sat down on a nearby root, trying to steady his thoughts. Look, I don't know what war you're talking about, but I'm just a scout. I chart systems, log anomalies, and try not to die. She stepped fully out of the tree now. Her body, though clearly humanoid, glowed subtly with power, raw, ancient, and just barely restrained. The forest seemed to lean in around her, as if welcoming back its queen. My name is Aria, she said. You have awakened the last sentinel of Virellia. By ancient law, I am bound to your service until the cycle completes. Cale raised an eyebrow. So, you're like a magical bodyguard? She didn't smile, but there was a flicker of amusement in her eyes. If you like. The robot chimed in. Protocol alignment commencing. Adjusting mission parameters. Cale stood. All right. If I'm stuck with you, I need answers. What were you guarding? What cycle? Why me? Aria stepped past him, placing her hand on the robot's dome. Because you were the first to approach without fear. You asked no price, sought no glory. The tree chose you. I touched a weird tree lady. That's it. And yet, you're still alive. Most wouldn't be. Kale opened his mouth to reply when the ground shook again, this time, from beneath. A low hum began to vibrate through the earth. Aria's head snapped up. They felt my awakening. Who's they? The ones who imprisoned me. The Scorch Choir. Kale blinked. Okay, that sounds aggressively ominous. The robot chirped. Hostile resonance detected. Temporal distortions incoming. Recommend evasive action. Before Kale could respond, a shimmering crack split the air behind the tree. From it, black-cloaked figures began to emerge, their faces hidden behind masks etched with burning runes. Aria stepped protectively in front of Kale. Her hands lifted, and the ground beneath the invaders exploded in tendrils of living wood. Kale ducked. Right. Guess we're doing this now. Vines whipped through the air like serpents, lashing at the figures. One raised a staff, launching a beam of molten energy. Aria caught it with her palm and hurled it back tenfold. Kale looked at the robot. Can you do anything useful? I have a sarcasm subroutine and a laser pointer. Great. Kale grabbed his sidearm and took cover behind the roots. Whatever this was, it wasn't just an ancient relic quest. Something big had been set into motion. As the battle raged around him, Kale couldn't help but think, all I wanted was to catalog moss samples. The last of the invaders was pinned by Aria's vines and dissolved into a flicker of red smoke. She turned to him. We need to move. They were scouts. More will come. Kale holstered his weapon. You've got to stop saying things like that. The tree behind them glowed faintly now, a portal beginning to open where the bark had once been solid. The gates, Aria whispered. They've begun to respond. Kale stared at the swirling light. And what happens if we go through? She looked at him. Everything changes. He nodded slowly. All right. Let's see what I woke up. And with that, they stepped through together. Kale didn't know what he expected to feel stepping through a tree portal, but the sensation was somewhere between drowning in cold starlight and being squeezed through a needle made of sound. When his boots hit solid ground again, he stumbled forward and barely managed to stay upright. The air was heavy. Not in the breathable sense, though it did taste of ozone and pine, but in the way it pressed on his skin, like he'd walked into a room holding its breath. They stood on a black stone bridge suspended in nothingness. All around them was a void lit by rivers of glowing code, ancient alien symbols drifting like nebulae across the dark. The tree gateway behind them slowly closed with a quiet hum. Kale turned in place. Okay. This is new. Aria stepped forward with poise, her bare feet silent against the stone. This is the rootway. The hidden path between gates of Millennia. It connects what remains of my people's strongholds. The robot hovered beside them now, its single blue eye flickering. Energy patterns unstable. Time-space distortions increasing. Caution advised. Yeah, no kidding, Kale muttered. Ahead, the bridge split into several directions, arched pathways, floating stairs, and broken chains of shattered platforms drifting in the void. This place looks like someone broke reality and forgot to fix it, Kale said. Aria gestured toward the nearest path. The first node lies this way. We must secure it before the choir does. The Scorch Choir. Right. You're going to have to explain what that is. As they walked, Aria spoke. They were once keepers like me. But the war twisted them. They burned entire worlds to purge what they called impurity. When I refused to hand them the key to Millennia's core, they bound me to the Tree of Sorrow. Kale raised an eyebrow. And this key? She didn't answer. Before he could press her, the air rippled up ahead. A shadow peeled itself from the stone wall, unraveling into a humanoid shape made of smoke and heat. It raised a molten blade. Kale pulled his blaster. Aria didn't flinch. I'll handle this one. She surged forward, palm glowing with golden energy. Her hand struck the figure's chest and it burst into flameless light, disintegrating with a screech that left an echo in Kale's bones. He blinked. That was terrifying. And kind of hot. She ignored the comment. They continued. Every 100 meters, they faced a new challenge. Sentient traps. Whispering illusions. One section of the bridge crumbled as they crossed, forcing Kale to leap onto a floating shard of stone and cling for dear life while Arya reshaped the air into a bridge beneath his feet. "You okay?" she asked once he landed. "Do I look okay? I just rode a piece of sidewalk across a starfield." She tilted her head. "You didn't scream." Internal screaming. The robot beeped. Approaching first node. Caution, heavy interference detected. They emerged into a chamber of pure crystal, suspended at the heart of the routeway. Floating in the center was a glowing sphere, pulsing slowly. It looked fragile, peaceful, and it was surrounded. Figures in cracked black armor stood in formation. One among them turned. Unlike the others, his mask was open, revealing a face marred with cybernetic implants and glowing red eyes. "Arya," he said, voice like crushed glass. "Still playing protector to the dying?" She stepped forward. "Varel. I thought the choir burned your voice with your shame." He grinned, revealing steel teeth. "They made me a herald. And you are obsolete." Kale leaned toward the robot. "I assume that's one of the big bads." "Affirmative. Designation, Varel Vor. Executioner class Warborn. Probability of hostile engagement, 99.7%. Kale sighed. "Wonderful." Varel raised a hand, and his troops readied plasma pikes. Arya dropped into a low stance, vines sprouting from her feet and cracking the crystal floor. "Kale," she said calmly, "you need to get to the node. Place your hand on it. You're the only one it will accept now." "Me?" "Your touch woke me. The system sees you as the new root bearer." The robot beeped. Clarification: root bearer is a ceremonial title of immense power and responsibility. Side effects may include madness, glowing hands, or planar disintegration. Kale stared. "You couldn't have told me that before." But the battle had already begun. Arya launched herself into the fray. Vines exploded from her arms, wrapping around enemies and hurling them into the void. Varel moved like a spectre, blade clashing with her strikes, the air around them vibrating with power. Kale ducked under a flying pike and ran. He leapt over debris, slid across the cracked floor, and reached the node. It pulsed brighter as he neared. One hand out. Then contact. Light exploded outward. Memories, not his, flooded his brain. Planets thriving with tree cities. Arya's people. Their downfall. The tree of sorrow. The cycle. Then silence. When he opened his eyes, the chamber was glowing. The choir troops were frozen mid-step, trapped in tendrils of time. Arya stood above Varel, who was now bound by living bark. She looked at Kale, surprised. "You stabilized it. Already." He swayed. "That hurt. A lot." She walked to him and touched his temple. Some of the pain eased. "You've bonded with the root. The first gate is yours." Varel hissed. "You've doomed us all. The cycle cannot be repeated. The flame will consume everything." Kale knelt, breathing hard. "Someone want to tell me what this cycle is?" Arya's face grew somber. When Virelia's people realized they couldn't stop the choir, they encoded their essence into the rootway. Each gate, each node, is a memory. A power source. Only the one who completes the cycle can access the core. And that's good, right? The core remakes worlds. Or unmakes them. Kale looked at the glowing node. "And now I'm the guy holding the detonator." Varel laughed darkly. "You think you're in control? The core will test you. Twist you. And when you break, because you will, it'll sing your bones into the next root bearer." Kale stood slowly. "I've passed every bureaucratic exam the core ever threw at me. How bad can it be?" The robot chimed. "We are now locked into core-seeking protocol. Trajectory, next node. Survival probability, 42%. Great." The crystal platform reshaped into a pathway forward. Arya looked at him. "There's no turning back now." Kale nodded. "Then let's make sure this isn't all for nothing." And together, they stepped toward the next challenge. Behind them, Varel vanished in a cloud of sparks, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Run, little tree. The flame is hungry." Kale hit the ground with a grunt, landing hard on the stone of the next platform. Area followed moments later, graceful even in descent. The floating path behind them cracked and dissolved into the void as soon as their feet left it, leaving no way back. The air here was hotter, charged with static. A distant rumble echoed through the root-bound realm, as if 1,000 drums were being pounded in the dark. Light pulsed beneath the surface of the black stone, veins of red and gold dancing like magma just out of reach. Kale stood, wiping blood from his lip. Okay. This next node better come with a refreshment station. The robot hovered behind him, chirping uncertainly. Environmental scans suggest this region is semi-sentient. Hostile architecture confirmed. Probability of spontaneous collapse, 68%. Perfect, Kale muttered. Area looked ahead. This is the trial path. Each step forward challenges the bearer's intent. If your purpose wavers, the path rejects you. Kale squinted. So it's like a personality quiz with lava? She gave a slow nod. With consequences. The path forked into 3 routes, each shimmering with different colors. One bathed in blue light, calm and cool. One burned crimson, vibrating with aggression. The third shimmered with golden hues, neither inviting nor repelling. Kale stepped toward the golden path. Middle road. Because why not? The second his boot touched the stone, a wall of light shot up behind them. The choice was sealed. The ground shifted. Suddenly, Kale was no longer standing beside Area or the robot. He stood alone in a version of the core training barracks, exactly as he remembered it, the smell of oil and disinfectant, the flickering lights, the hum of drone instructors. But this time, everyone turned to look at him. Instructors, squadmates, even people who had died years ago. Their eyes glowed faintly, their faces stern. Why did you run? One of them asked. You always ran. Kale swallowed. You're not real. You left her behind, said another. He saw Rinna. The last teammate he failed. Shot down on a failed outpost retrieval, too far back for him to save. Her image flickered now. You'll fail Area too, she said. Just a matter of time. He clenched his fists. This is a test. You're not real. Does it matter? Kale closed his eyes. The air around him pulsed with memory. Fear. Guilt. He took a breath. Then another. This time, he whispered, I'm not leaving anyone behind. Light exploded outward. When he opened his eyes, the vision was gone. The bridge reformed under his feet, and Area was there, watching with unreadable eyes. You passed, she said. The root judged your guilt and found truth in it. Kale nodded, shaky. I never wanted this. None of us did. They moved on, the robot behind them humming nervously. The next segment of the trial path shifted again, this time placing them inside a mirrored hall. Endless reflections of Kale and Area stared back at them. From the mirrors, twisted versions stepped out. Kale faced doppelgangers with hollow eyes and rotted armor. Area doubles with blackened vines and shriveled limbs. Do not attack them first, Area warned. They feed on aggression. Good to know. The figures circled. Kale stood still, breathing slow. One stepped forward and mimicked his voice. You're not good enough to save anyone. Kale stared at it. Maybe. But I'm still standing. It sneered. You'll die like the rest. He didn't flinch. Light flashed. The reflections shattered, the glass falling like rain, melting into golden mist. The path reformed once again, leading to the node. It floated in a chamber of light. No crystal, no platform, just light. And in the center, a beating heart of gold. Kale reached out. The second his fingers touched it, he was thrown backward into memory again. But this time, it wasn't his. He saw Area as a child, learning the songs of the forest. He saw the elders before the war. The betrayal of the Scorch Choir. Her binding to the tree of sorrow. The silent years spent dreaming through bark and memory. He saw her pain. And then he saw himself waking her, unintentionally, but willingly. And the root responding. When the vision faded, Kale stood still, tears he didn't remember shedding drying on his cheeks. Area was beside him, hand lightly touching his arm. You saw it, she asked. He nodded. All of it. You understand why the core must be kept sealed? Yeah. But even as he said it, he heard the tremor in the root. Something was coming. The light chamber began to fracture. Cracks opened above them. Then, Varel returned. He stepped through a tear in the void, body now twisted further, his limbs reshaped, cloak ablaze with unreal fire. You complete the trial, he snarled, but you delay the inevitable. The choir has touched the core. The countdown has begun. Kale stepped forward. You keep talking about the core like it's a weapon. It is, Varel said. A weapon, or a womb. It creates what you bring into it. And the choir brings flame. Aria summoned her vines. Then we stop them here. Kale raised his blaster. Final exam, huh? Varel screamed, charging. The air rippled with the clash of power. Kale ducked a flaming blade, rolled forward, and fired 3 rounds into Varel's chest. The warborn didn't even flinch. Aria moved like a hurricane, roots sprouting from her arms, ensnaring Varel's limbs. He tore free, launching a wave of searing force that knocked them both backward. The robot hovered, projecting a shield over Kale just in time to block a spear of flame. Assist mode activated, it chirped. Kale saw the heart of the node pulsing wildly behind Varel. If I reach it, can I shut this down? Aria shouted, not shut it down. Rewrite it. Make the core remember. Remember what? Hope. Kale ran. Dodging debris, dodging fire, dodging death. He reached the heart. This time, he didn't just touch it. He slammed both hands into it, pouring everything he had into it, his memories, his fears, his stubbornness, his ridiculous humanity. The node exploded in light. Varel screamed, covering his face. Aria surged forward, vines piercing the void, wrapping around him. He struggled, but the light grew brighter. Kale's voice echoed across the realm. This isn't your story, Varel. It's ours now. With one final cry, Varel was consumed in a vortex of golden flame, scattered to the winds between worlds. Silence fell. The node pulsed once more, and the path to the core opened before them. Aria helped Kale up. That was not the end. But it was your trial. You passed. Kale was pale, exhausted, eyes bloodshot. Then let's finish this before someone else lights the match. Together, they stepped forward toward the core, the flame, and the fate of everything that ever dared to bloom in the dark. The core was not a place. Not in the way stars are places or planets are homes. It was a pulse, a presence, an endless chamber of shifting light and memory. As Kale and Aria stepped into it, the world peeled away behind them. The bridge vanished. The rootway collapsed like scaffolding no longer needed. Only the core remained. Kale's boots touched down on a floor that wasn't there. The air was thick with history, ancient songs sang themselves into the corners of his mind, voices echoing from forgotten species, long-dead elders, and sleeping stars. He turned to Aria. She stood still, eyes wide, hands trembling slightly. This is it, she whispered. The source of all creation Virelia left behind. Looks like a dream that never ends, Kale murmured. And never should have been disturbed. The robot hovered near, its eye dimmed in reverence. No data. No analysis. This place is beyond calculation. At the center of the vast space floated a crystalline structure, larger than anything Kale had ever seen. It pulsed with light that seemed to breathe in sync with his heartbeat. He took a step toward it, and the world blinked. Suddenly, Kale stood in a desert. Then a sea. Then a war. Then a memory. 1,000 Kales, 1,000,000 versions of himself, some strong, some broken, some afraid, some dead. Is this what you are? He asked the core. You, said the voice that answered, are what you bring to me. He turned. The voice wasn't Aria. It wasn't anything. It simply was star. You are a reflection, it said. A mirror. A chance. Kale looked at his hands. They shimmered faintly with the root's light. You're alive. I am not life. I am the echo of every choice your kind never made. I am the end of all that was forgotten. I am possibility. Kale took a breath. Then I choose to end the cycle. The core dimmed. A pause. You would unmake the seed. No, he said, stepping closer. I'd plant it somewhere better. Memories poured through him, his failures, his regrets, and also his small victories. The time he refused to lie on a report. The time he shared rations with a starving miner. The time he buried a teammate with dignity no one else would offer. It wasn't grand. But it was real. Aria appeared beside him again, tears in her eyes. You're rewriting it, she said. You're showing it hope. I'm showing it what we survive for. The core pulsed once more, brighter than ever. Then silence. And light. When they opened their eyes, they were standing in the clearing again, the tree of sorrow no longer sorrowful, but blooming. The sky above shimmered with color. The grass sang. Kale fell to his knees, exhausted beyond words. The robot whirred softly and landed beside him. System reset. Rootway rethreaded. Core reharmonized. Aria knelt and touched the soil. It listened, she said. The galaxy may never know what you did. But it listened. Kale looked up at her. I'm just a scout. I wasn't supposed to be anyone's hero. You weren't, she said with a soft smile. You were just supposed to be kind. The wind shifted. From the edge of the forest, sprouts of bioluminescent trees began to rise, growing in seconds what should have taken years. The forest remembered. The root remembered. The tree of sorrow became the tree of renewal. Kale leaned back against its trunk and closed his eyes. So, what now? Aria sat beside him, folding her hands in her lap. Now, you live. You rest. You teach others to protect what they can't understand. Not with power, but with presence. Not sure I'm wise enough for that. You're human, she said gently. That's the point. As the sun rose across the new world they had reshaped, Kale thought about all the worlds still fighting, still breaking. He couldn't fix them all. But here, in this clearing, with a woman who had been a tree for millennia and a robot with terrible sarcasm skills, he had done something that mattered. The core hadn't asked for perfection. It had asked for a reason to continue. And Kale had given it one. Moral ***. You don't have to be chosen, powerful, or perfect to change the world. You just have to show up, stay kind, and keep going, especially when it matters most.